You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Hi, everybody. It finally got a little bit chilly around my neck of the woods, so
Yes.
I have regrets about wearing shorts today, but it's good news. We have comic books to read, which warms the heart. Aww.
You clearly read different books than I did.
What? I must have gotten good books, the happy books. Did you get all dark
Yeah,
books?
none of my books were what you'd call heartwarming.
Oh.
Several of them were heart-removing.
One of mine was extra spicy.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't have any of that either. I had
They were all-
several disembowelments, unalivings, beheadings.
It was fun to figure out what the theme is because there always feels like there's a theme every week. Weirdly.
The theme for me was good luck sleeping tonight.
Oh. Eddie
Hey.
and Triple B.
Awesome.
Love you guys. Thanks for showing up. We appreciate it. Makes us feel good about all the work we do.
All
Let's
right.
talk about new comic books here
Let's
on
get into it.
Experience. Oh, I was excited about this one. Who else talked about this? Kyle, did you actually mention this?
Yeah, we talked about it last night on Nerd News Now.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Jenna and Spilios. Okay, Batman Off-Road exactly the way it sounds. This one's really cool because it more is focused on this, I don't know how to explain it except for a giant battleship that kind of like tractor beams in what turns out to be Batman's puny little ship that you find out later he spent, billions of dollars on or millions of dollars on. And I guess that the ship goes around the galaxies and just gobbles up whatever kind of beings it can find. It doesn't really matter if you're like part robot or whatever, all robot, they'll use you. And all they're doing is gathering armies together. It kind of feels like an actual tied to historical thing because I think there used to be, big groups that used to do that, Mongols, etc. They're just like, yeah, you're a Roman now, go fight for us. So Batman gets grabbed out of his ship, and the interaction between him and the other beings on this ship is really interesting. And you find out there is more going on than meets the eye, especially in regards to Batman's what he's doing there. And it's a fun little romp that if you don't care to be reading anything else Batman and you want to just have a Batman story to read that wasn't tied to anything in the main universe, this is it for you. Great writing, easy to follow story. I never was like, what's going on? And cool looking art.
So the big demon-looking guy in the background is not who I hoped it was?
If it is, they aren't calling him that.
I'll buy this one because I ordered it, but then I won't pick another one up. Way to go, DC.
But you might like it. And it might be him, and I just don't know any better.
I only bought it because I thought it was that guy.
Well, maybe you'll read it and think to yourself, oh, yeah, it totally is clearly that guy.
I got my doubts.
Everyone's getting into fights in the comments. I love it. They're planning out Zooms. Don't
That's
mind
why
that.
I'm
You guys
ignoring
keep
them
going.
all.
We love y'all. I don't really know who Spilios is saying no to. Probably me. No. Oh, I get to back it. Okay. Carnage. So to catch you up to where everything is in the universe, Cassidy has been dead. So Carnage has been his own being for quite a while. And the Venom symbiote is no longer with Eddie either. And he's off doing kind of his own thing, but with Eddie's son, but as a different part of himself as Sleeper. But they created a new character called Rascal. Try to catch up. It's a lot of stuff going on. And there's a bunch of stuff that's been going on in the symbiote world. So this kind of just picks up right in the middle of all that. There is some crazy stuff that happens at the very beginning of this book that brings back a character by ways that I'm like, what just happened? I don't understand how that could occur. And you get to see what you've been missing for a long time. So heads up for everybody that's been waiting for a particular redhead's return. He's back, and he believes he's a god, and I don't know that he's not right. So no, there you go.
Okay. So I did not find out until I was searching for covers. This actually doesn't come out till December 13th.
Close enough.
Yeah. Before I get started, first off, who is everyone's favorite Adams character? Mine is John Aston's Gomez. You got one? What?
Lurch.
Okay. That's
I like
fair.
the guy that has the light bulb in his mouth, whoever that is.
Uncle Fester.
Uncle Fester.
Yeah, Fester.
Okay.
You rang.
So, this has got to have the most interesting art I've ever seen in a book. Yeah, I get it.
Cousin It's a close second, Ed.
That's true.
Cousin It is a close second, then Uncle Fester. No one whose last name is actually Adams is high on my list, ironically.
That's fair. But yeah, the art style in this book is just something I've never seen, but it totally fits the book. To me, it's kind of a mix of the animated movies that are coming out now, and you remember Mad magazine when they did the parody movies, how they drew the movie stars in it? It kind of feels like that too.
Like old 20s.
Yeah, like
Glamour
caricatures. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really fun though. Like the whole story is fun, and it's basically Wednesday versus a pink polo wearing Colt. And it's a story that I feel it only works in an Addams Family book. There's also a backup story in the back where it's these two guys pretending to be pest control to rob from the Addams, and you could probably already tell how that's going to go. It's not really creepy, but it is kooky, and I think that anyone would have a blast with this.
But is it altogether ooky?
No, there's not a lot of ook in it.
We had to get there for Kyle. It was killing him.
I know. But if you're a fan of any interpretation of the Addams Family, this is a definite pickup. I thought this was a really great book.
You know what I've always loved about their family, honestly, is it like the forever flame for the parents. It was like one of the back in that day, like most of the parents actually loved each other when you think about all the shows we had on.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that these guys were just like, they were like having their newlywed flirtation all the time, despite being married for, millennia or whatever.
Yeah. Don't be like Joker and Harley. Be like Gomez and Morticia.
Yeah.
Munsters forever.
Munsters. Those guys.
Speaking of Munsters, this is Tinian's Dracula. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. Tinian does not write a great Dracula. What he does do is right and outstanding. What's the other guy's name? Just Renfield. Outstanding. Like, to the point where Dracula is cool, but Renfield is like the Joker in Batman cool.
Ah.
Like, this whole other level of sociopathic, just that's a nightmare waiting to happen is Renfield in this book. And Dracula is just kind of like, yeah, I drink blood. I'm here. I'm a bat. I'm whatever. He's almost not important compared to the other characters, and then the seriously twisted, messed up, someone check on James Tinian character that is Renfield in this book. That said, in this issue, you continue kind of your traditional Batman-y story. Batman becomes bat, drinks blood, duh. But it's everybody else who's doing the interesting stuff. It's people trying to figure out, is the character of I keep calling him Batman, Dracula. He's the same guy. Is Dracula actually a vampire, or is he just some weird Russian dude? Meanwhile, you have Renfield like literally pulling the strings on several murders.
Oh.
And it's really kind of like the line I'm going to give this book is, what would happen if like Count Chocula met Jeffrey Dahmer and they decided to team up? Because that's how innocuous Dracula is in this, in my opinion.
Sure you
And
don't want
how
to pick
seriously, huh?
Sure you don't want to pick like the Count from Sesame Street?
No.
No, okay.
Because seasonal vampires. Yeah, no, that's how, in my opinion, how innocuous Dracula is in this issue and how important Renfield is. So I don't think I wouldn't either, Ed, but I'll be honest, I would buy a comic book about it. So needless to say, I'm not overly impressed with this. I think part of it is that Tinian is having to hold too close because it's a Universal property to Universal Monsters Dracula, but he doesn't have to kind of toe that line with Renfield and the other characters.
Read Sean's one, but in the right voice, please.
One good tagline.
There goes Sean's one funny of the year.
If you want to read a book about blood sucking, this is not it. If you want to read a book about the many, 1, 2, 3 murders, this is your book. The problem is when I do that accent too long, it turns Jamaican and it gets real weird.
You just need to, whoever's doing this show, cut that and post just that, because that's brilliant.
1, 2. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, Darkling. Coming from a place of not really knowing all of the Archie horror corner of the universe, I will tell you, this is still very enjoyable. Despite looking there like a middle-aged woman, in this book, Darkling is actually in college and is kind of trying to maneuver the college life of being awkward and having a cape on all the time, because she looks just like that in outfit-wise. And not getting asked to, show up to parties, etc. So she gets drawn in by another character who is saying, you need to be more engaged because there's people disappearing. Come help me. And so this is a kind of an interesting relationship book. It is a kind of like not too spooky. It's not as dark as some of their other chilling related books, but also it does deal in the dark arts. So if that's the part you like about it, it still has that, but also, it's more teenagery. And there's two cool covers that I've seen of this book, and they're both great. The second one is David Mack, I believe.
Yeah, the hardest part about putting the slides together is choosing the covers sometimes, because a lot of these covers are just gorgeous.
Yeah, and I want her hair. I mean, I've got long hair, but that's awesome. Her cape is cool.
Okay, the alternates, which I didn't put my stuff in order. Well, there we go. So I have to admit, while this isn't as fun as Minor Threats, it's still a really good story. And even without reading the first two issues, because I hadn't read the first two issues, it's the first one I've read. I still enjoyed it. I want to track down the first two now to really get a grasp on what's going on. This book has, to me at least, a very League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and Watchmen kind of vibe to it, as far as the tone goes. Like I said, it's a bit more serious than Minor Threats, but you still have a little bit of silliness. I mean, there's a character in here that's made of lobsters, for crying out loud. So, I've said this before. David Desmalchin, Keanu Reeves, Patton Oswalt. While they only help write these books, I feel they all could have a future in comics if they wanted it. There hasn't been a bad thing from any of them that I've read, like Berserker and Count Crowley and Minor Threats, and now this. No, because it's like Man of Spiders. If you know the Man of Spiders character from Spider-Man.
Pablo.
Patton Oswalt himself has actually like surprised me in the tonal shift between the two books. Like I said, I think I'd have a better idea of what's exactly going on in this book had I read the first two, but I still think this is a good foil for Minor Threats. So if you read Minor Threats and you liked it, I would still tell you to go out and grab this one. So it's a really good story. Lost my mouse for a second. Hold on. There we go.
Okay. This is a book that is a comic book. That's what you find out in the first issue. And here's what I mean. There is really very little plot in this first issue. It's a ton of exposition. But in the last panel, on the last page, when the exposition pays off, you realize that you've been sucked into a comic book that you're not ready for.
Oh.
So, yeah, the whole first issue revolves around this main character finding out that his wife has a hotel reservation at a place called the Lunar Lodge, somewhere like in Idaho, North Dakota, somewhere in the north. And she's telling him that she's going to like Albuquerque for a conference, which is somewhere in the south. And so he decides to track it down. So he tries to get a room at the Lunar Lodge, and they're all booked up because of the full moon. The Lunar Lodge and a full moon. Do you know what this comic book is now?
Yes.
So there are no rooms available at the inn. So he drives out and like you see several stories start to intertwine. Local cops kind of scaring people out of town, and the town is sort of deserted, but for a town that's supposedly a big deal around a full moon, why is the town deserted? And this guy is trying to figure it out, and at the end, you find out that perhaps there is more to his wife than you could drive a stake into.
So leprechauns. Gotcha.
Yeah. No, this is a book about the gremlins and how you can't feed them after midnight. Yeah, no. I like, the problem is that the whole point of this book is the last panel. I could literally give you a shot-by-shot description and it wouldn't take away from me in this book, because the last panel tells you everything you need to know going forward. The Lunar Lodge is a great name for this place. Just real quick, go back for a second. Ed.
Ed, not Castle?
John might like it, but this is Ed. Like,
Okay, definitely Ed.
There's another book later that's a John book.
Okay. Cool. All right. I read this one this week, mostly because I was kind of confused by the number of them that were in the box, because we don't really have, a ton of people on Justice Society, but there were a ton in the box. So I was like, my general manager who's doing the ordering right now doesn't order things like that for no reason. So it's like, there must be something big that happens here. So Justice Society is a very old corner of the DC universe. It involves, Golden Age characters, Power Girl, Star Girl. And as you see back there in the background, this one has Solomon Grundy, who was born on a Monday, as part of the main part of the storyline. Something pretty big happens in regards to that character. But the cool thing about the story in general is, if you just wanted to jump in and read this book just for the key thing that happens in it, there is so funny. In one of the retailer groups, they actually said what is supposed to be the first appearance of blankety blank, but that's not what I saw. There's a first appearance of blankety other blank in this book. So, and that doesn't happen until the last page. So if you just wanted to try out a Justice Society, you can jump in here. I don't think you need to know anything beforehand. The big thing that happens with Solomon Grundy happens in the first 5 pages. So, and it's great. It'll make you feel like, if you are feeling nostalgic for old school DC characters, or if you've been reading the new releases that they have been doing, following some of those characters, like your Golden Age Green Lanterns and Flashes and those, then this is a great book to jump in on if you're like, you know what, I miss these guys.
I do like the fact that it's Grundy and old school Green Lantern, and what's that, Huntress in the background, and I can't think of her name. She just had a show. Huh?
I think that's Stargirl, yeah.
Yeah, Stargirl. I was blanking on Stargirl. And, of course, Batman. But, like, I love that it's all the characters I like plus Batman.
Is it as good as JLA The Golden Age? Oh, Pablo, I don't think I got to read that one. I think that one of the other reviewers read that one, so I don't know if I can make a good comparison for you. I apologize. I quite enjoyed it, and as you guys know, guys, my witness, I'm more a Marvel girl, so if there's a DC book that I like, it's probably got to be fairly decent, or I would just be like, I don't know what happened here.
And this is Jeff Johns and Marco Stantucci, right? Yeah, this is Jeff Johns and Marco Stantucci. Yeah. So, best writing, best arting. This is one I didn't put on my pull list, and then I saw, and now I'm big angry because my LCS had to special order it for me, and I won't get it till next week.
Oh no!
So, Jay, I read issue 1 of this. I'll be interested to see how you felt about issue 2.
I went back and downloaded issue 1 of this.
Good man.
Oh my goodness. Okay, first of all, love Hack Slash. Love it. I'm still waiting for a movie or a series or something. This book is so ripe for that. It's not even funny. But I saw this and I was like, dude, I have to read this, and I'm so glad that I did. This is a much different take on Cassie. Like, even the beginning of this issue, at least, is not even Cassie. It's another hunter named Darla. That opening scene is very violent and awesome. And later you find out it's kind of a memory / dream she's having, and she wakes up and you find out she's like the head mistress of this school of all girl hunters. My only issue with this book, Vlad is not in this book as much as I'd like him to be, at least this issue. But the part that he's in is funny. This was a somewhat fantastical hack slash story in the sense that they get sucked into like a computer game. So that was kind of crazy, but it's still just a very gory, good time. This was just different enough to be fresh, but not so far removed where it didn't feel like hack slash. I really enjoyed this one. I'm excited to see where it goes. And this is a tremendous read if you're a hack slash fan. Like I'm blanking on the writer. I know it's not Tim Seeley that wrote this, but the writer did a fantastic job taking over the story. So honestly, if you're a hack slash fan, you really need to pick this one up.
No one on the internet seems to know what happened to the movie.
It's been languishing for years.
All right, this is the John book.
Look at that. It was bowling.
Yes. So this is The Holy Roller. And I want you guys to know that this is written by someone who was on a boat at one point, who is Shirani, who you may know as having a weird obsession with Michael Bolton, or getting, anyway, it's Andy Samberg.
9-9.
I was gonna, 9-9. I was gonna try and come up with a Brooklyn Nine-Nine reference, but I can't because this is more like
he was gonna do a heist.
Kinda. This is more like If That's My Boy got flipped a little bit. The thing I'm gonna warn everyone about in this book is there's a fair amount of what you'd call anti-Semitism. But not like the story is not anti-Semitic. The bad guys are.
Well,
so I want to make that
like them.
right. But it's jarring. I just want you to know that. Like going in that it's jarring if you're not prepared. But it's Andy Samberg, Joe Troman, and Rick Remender. So when I thought this was going to be a funny book about bowling, I thought this was going to be like a religious, like Kingpin. You know, the movie with Randy Quaid and
Woody Harrelson and
Woody Harrelson. That is not what happens because Rick Remender happens. So what you have is this kid who's growing up in what I would call rural suburban Ohio. It's not a real place, but these places exist. And his dad is a professional bowler. But the kid is like a video game enthusiast and this kind of stuff. And he gets picked on a lot by the rich kids in town who aren't really rich. Their dad just owns the bowling alley. Right? And you see this incident where he is bullied as a kid and winds up like having to leave the bowling alley and never go back. Well, you jumped 20 years later and he's on a boat somewhere in Greenpeace, like fighting pirates, except that he's not fighting pirates. He's essentially on a cruise getting drunk and smoking weed, right? With Greenpeace. And find out his dad is dying and he goes home. And home looks a lot like that movie Idiocracy. I mean, it's almost a direct ripoff of Idiocracy. And gets in a fight with his dad, and his dad gives him his bowling ball. Going, look, I'm dying, and if I never see you again, I want you to have my bowling ball. And then, if you've seen the movie Walking Tall with Rock the Dwayne Johnson, that happens.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of leaves off in a weird cliffhanger, but needless to say, there's face hanging off of the bowling ball. So, like I said, this is my John Spilios pick of the week over here. The Holy Roller, for if you've ever wanted to pound anybody's face in and all you had was a bowling ball. Also, at the end, there's a long letter from Rick Remender that is as hysterical as anything I've ever read Rick Remender write, explaining how the book came to be. So I would encourage you to read the letter at the end, because Rick Remender sets up this book as like the product of a secret Hollywood cabal. And he keeps spelling cabal with a B, an A, and two L's. You know, things like he doesn't actually do that, but it's kind of how the tone feels. So,
You get it?
Pablo, all I'm saying is that this feels more like the Rock the Dwayne Johnson version and not the 1970s version. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, no, I was real happy with that book.
Oh, here's the spicy book. Okay. So this is the second book out of Distillery. This is the number one by Becky Cloonan and Tulu Lote. And if you've ever read either of their things, you'll know they know what they're doing. This book, as you guys know, is the same format as the rest of the Distillery books, which are the kind of like the Black Label format, which is the oversized. In this case, it is so needed for all of the amazing art that's in it. Okay, so this focuses in on a woman who is married to a fellow who is kind of, he must be the lawman in town. And this is set in what looks like an older time period, right? A time in which there might be someone in town that was accused of being a witch and might be, being burned at the stake. So the main character, you kind of meet her honestly at the very beginning. She finds herself in what I call sleep paralysis. So she thinks that she's awake and trying to prevent, you're like, oh no, this is something I need to reach out and stop. But it looks like later on that it's probably just her dreaming. But she has a nighttime visitor who may or may not be the devil himself, and definitely something demonic. And there starts this very sexual relationship in which the husband, of course, is unaware of. All he knows is she's making weird moaning sounds in her sleep, right? So there becomes in this book this crazy dichotomy between her having this, is it real or not real relationship that is very clearly kind of cheating. And it's very clear that whatever this bad character is just kind of like, you deserve this. You deserve to have pleasure or whatever. And on the other hand, that her husband is clearly capable of hunting down and burning people at the stake. At what level is she in danger? Also from that. But then there's all these other complexities that are part of the storyline that involves her, the other people in the town, friends of hers, the husband of the woman who's burned at the stake. There's all kinds of like, this is as twisty as it can get. So if you like the super spiciness of Game of Thrones, for example, and you like twisty turns storylines that you're like, I don't know. And if you like horror that involves, nighttime visitation and gorgeous artwork, you might want to pick this up. This is book 1. I don't know how many books there are in this series, but this one's nice and long and really pretty.
Yeah, I didn't realize how long the cover was until just now.
The distillery books are always going to be like this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, I'm glad you read this one, Jay.
You know what?
Shout out the Nia Rafino cover.
I can say this very confidently. This was one of the better Zenescope books that I've read in a while. I actually really like this one. But this was also one of the weirdest and saddest Zenescope books I think I've ever read. It deals with a very tough issue that I won't get into, but it kind of flip-flops between the real world and Wonderland. And surprisingly enough,
hey Jay.
Yeah.
There's no trade dress. Maybe we should tell people what the book is.
Oh, you know what? You're absolutely right. I totally forgot about that.
I'm like, I remember the cover. I forget the title.
Yeah. Wonderland, Child of Madness.
There we go.
I was so mesmerized by it, I forgot about that part.
Right. Shout out Nia Rafino again.
Yeah. For these, I probably need to search them online because all the covers had no trade dress on them. So yeah, it's Wonderland. It's Wonderland. So it flip-flops between both the worlds, and it's strange because there's stork monsters and murder in one world, and the other one is Wonderland. And it has the character Violet raising a recently transformed version of her own mother, Callie. Not really a spoiler. It's kind of like the first couple of pages you learn this. It was strange, but the art is solid, and it's not an overbloated story with a ton of other characters. It just revolves around these few characters, which I really dug because my main problem with Zenescope has always been too many characters in a story. Like I said, it goes back and forth between the worlds, but it all ties together in the end. Again, all in all, it's one of the better Zenescope books I've read in a while. And yes, Castle. For once, Jay's actually rooting for Zenescope. That's not a what's that book that I actually like? Now I forget. Now I'm trying to talk about it. the Deadpool one, Cindy. That's not Cindy. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. So if you're a fan of Zenescope, you should definitely jump on this one, especially if I liked it. So love you too, Castle.
Okay. So if you're not reading the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and you might like to read the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, start here. 114 issues in. And I'm going to give Boom Studios a ton of credit right now. Every publisher out there is doing that same garbage tactic of doing a mini series and then a reboot and then a mini series and then a reboot, but they're all continuations of the previous mini series, right? We all know they're doing it. It drives us all nuts. It makes us all want to put our heads through walls. If you're a publisher and you're hearing me say this, stop it. Boom Studios went 114 issues into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and went, hey guys, watch this. And so this is where you need to jump in. Because in 2 issues, I have it on Inside Authority, something colossal that changes the entire trajectory of the Power Rangers is coming. Okay. So this book starts setting that up. The Power Rangers Darkest Hour, 114. What you find in this issue is there is a malevolent something or other gathering up Power Rangers. Sean, this is going to make Shattered Grid look like a day at Disneyland.
Man.
Gathering up Power Rangers from different groups of Power Rangers. Like all the different Power Rangers groups that have ever existed. There's some from each of them. And imprisoning them somewhere on a ship. And there is a Dark Ranger out there trying to corral other Power Rangers. And no one knows what's happening or why they're doing what they're doing. It basically, in this issue, what you're doing is you're finding out the situation the Power Rangers find themselves in, which is their teams are segmented. They've split the party. They've, whether they've wanted to or not, been torn away from their individual universes and brought to one place. And they have to figure out how to still be Power Rangers outside of, their Power Rangers universe. And there's one in particular Power Ranger that you would think would be there. He's not. So the next issue, we're going to be looking for a certain guy who's a certain color, who's certain important, because otherwise I have no idea how we're going to get to what I think I know is coming. So, needless to say, I haven't read Power Rangers in about 110 issues. I'm so freaking hooked right now. I can't even begin to tell you. They are, it's not the pink one. But Melissa Flores is doing exactly what you need to do to start a line-wide crossover. Right? Exactly what you need to do the thing that they're doing in 2 issues. Like, I can't even begin to explain how important this book, the next book, and the book after that, at least, are going to be to Power Rangers fans. And if you're like me and you grew up in the 90s and the original Pink Ranger was the first girl you ever thought, gee, she's cute. I wonder what that means. I'm 7. I don't know what that means. If you're of a certain age, get ready to have your childhood all kind of messed up. Call your therapist now.
Mm-hmm.
So Triple B, I had an opportunity to work on a show called Flashpoint a number of years ago, and I got to meet Amy Jo Johnson, who played the original Pink Ranger. And it was the second time in my entire life that I was so dumbstruck and starstruck that I couldn't talk to her. I was like, hi. And that was about it.
Sean, I think there was 1 or 2 Darkest Hour tie-ins before this, but this is where it starts getting real.
This is the start of the crossover. There have been some like preludes, and we all know from Armageddon game that preludes are sometimes a mistake. So I would not worry about those and just jump in here.
She's also writing a Power Rangers.
She is writing a Power Rangers, which I did read. It was great.
Okay, so Daredevil Black Armor. I'm not 100% certain where this is supposed to fit in the universe. it feels like it's happening right now because he, as a character, has internal dialogue that's basically saying that he knows that he's created a new person that he's masquerading around as, who appears to be trying to pretend like they're of a sighted nature, like he can see. But also there's pages in this book that show the Matt Murdock character, because he's clearly going to do, his lawyering work. So I don't know if he's trying to pretend to be both people, but as this other person character that he's created, he is masquerading around as this Daredevil character, which is the dark, has a black armor on. Matter of fact, in the first issue here, he's handing it, the very damaged version of it, off to someone to fix it, which just kind of feels weird. Like, doesn't that guy now know who you are? It feels like a weird loose end. But he's turning it over to him like, hey, could you change the oil for this, please? So the book is really good. Because I haven't read the last couple issues of the regular Daredevil series, I don't know if this is like truly directly tied to it. But it doesn't at all feel like it's like, oh, here's a what if universe or any of that stuff, because it does feel like it's in continuity. But yeah, this one you get to see kind of like it jumps back and forth between him as the new characters created for himself to, be able to still walk around amongst everybody and not be noticed, and then him. But I'm just going to give you this is just the real for me. It's as if Clark Kent was trying to, pretend he wasn't Superman. It's like anyone could really tell, like, wait, aren't you're a redhead wearing red glasses. So I don't know how you, anyway. So it's a comic book perfect hiding. Because people somehow are dumber in comic books than the normal person.
True. Okay. Mortal Terror. Yeah, I'm going to read the one that actually has the name on the book. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This was an interesting vampire book. It's a vampire flipped Dracula. Has a ton of the same characters like Mina, John Harker, and Lucy. But in this, it feels like the vampires are the majority, and a lot of them don't believe humans are real. Even though we see they're like at war with people, but there's certain I guess like authority type figures that don't believe, they think humans are a myth. Like this starts out with an attack on a train, and there's like people being burned alive on this train, and John's like trying to get off, jumps out the window. Well, what you find out is the train is actually full of vampires. And humans, they call them mortals, have attacked the train. This is one of those, it's really hard to go too far into it because then it's going to get really spoilery. But I'll say this, if you're looking for a take on vampires that feels very different, and I know you hear that a lot about certain books, like, oh, if you want a different vampire werewolf, this to me is actually something completely different. I've never really read this kind of vampire book before. You should definitely give this a shot. And the title says it all. It's Mortal Terror. So it feels like the humans are the bad guys in this.
Eddie's got a good question for you.
That is a good question. We didn't get too far into that. Closest we got is John visits Lucy to talk to her about what happened on the train. Excuse me, the train. And she's like, would you like a glass of red? They never specifically call it blood. So Not sure, but it's a very interesting book, and I would definitely want to read more just to find out that answer, to be honest with you.
For anyone that's
And if
not
you-
on the YouTube, you might not be able to see the question. Eddie said, what do these vampires drink if they don't believe in humans? Which is a pretty straightforward question. If they don't believe in them, what do they drink it?
Ed, if you haven't read Redneck, is it Redneck or Rednecks, Miss Jen? Was it a
Redneck.
Jason Aaron Rednecks?
That's Kate's.
Yeah, it was Donnie Cates' Image book about vampires in West Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So check that one out. They found a way.
Yeah, they did.
I was looking for him the whole time I was in Dallas. Because
it's an interesting take. Like, if you're kind of over vampires, still give this one a shot.
Cool.
That would be good.
Okay. Do you guys remember in the 90s before there was safety? And you'd go to the mall and they'd have this contraption they'd put you in, and then they'd spin you around. Like it looked like a gyroscope. Hellboy is in one of them. And he's using it, I'm pretty sure against his will, to control this robot. But the robot is also Hellboy. It's very strange. And there are like other storylines that are happening that are kind of explaining why this world exists the way it does, but they're not clear. Like there's a element or a particle that'll rip a hole in space-time and create monsters, and that's why all of a sudden we have legally differentiated from Godzilla and legally differentiated from the Kraken and legally differentiated from dragons. And you have what really does look like the Iron Giant, but it's legally not the Iron Giant. It's legally Giant Robot Hellboy. Like, I don't know what this book is, but there's a lot of smashing of giant monsters by a big robot that I'm pretty sure Hellboy is controlling with his mind. So, if you read issue 1, pick it up and keep reading, because it's only a 3-issue series. So hopefully issue 3 makes it all clear. But right now I'm finding it very hard to follow because there just are disparate actions happening in disparate places, and they're not all tying together.
Okay, we got to speed it up a little bit. Didn't realize we were at.
Yeah.
I'll go fast. Hey, did you like Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars and think to yourself, man, what would happen if the Beyonder came back and started effing with them again? Here you go.
Awesome. Okay, so here's my surprise. Y'all, I know this released last week. We didn't talk about it. Rodney Barnes is a genius. Philadelphia is an amazing book to begin with, but this is a masterclass on how you do a crossover. If you've ever gotten a book based off of a recommendation of mine, I implore you to grab this one. Even if you've never read Philadelphia, this book is amazing. Go out and get it.
Okay. If you're not reading The Devil That Wears My Face, congratulations on being able to sleep at night. There's a reason I'm falling asleep in the middle of the day, and it's the nightmares this book is giving me. This is what happens if a devil or a demon, a powerful demon, possesses a priest during the Spanish Inquisition.
Good synopsis. Void Rivals continues on this awesome shared universe that is being created by Kirkman, bringing us together the Transformers and other cool Hasbro properties like the G.I. Joe soon. This one focuses it on things that are neither of those two things. These two warring peoples who someone from each of their peoples crash lands on a planet. It just happens to have, Transformer crash in it also, who's kind of like dead. So what has happened so far in the series is that they have taken pieces of their two ships and created something that would get them back to one of their planets, in which when they get there, unfortunately the person that is not their home planet gets put in jail. And you find out at the end of that issue that the kind of one of the leaders is not who they appear to be. And there is this big conspiracy to try to definitely make sure that these two disparate peoples don't end up making friends under any circumstances. And for reasons that I'm sure we're going to find out. This is a great furthering of the story. And it brings in just little bits of those universes so that they're not, it's not a Transformers book at all. But you see beings that might be part of the Transformers universe kind of as part of the storyline, but you're just not having Optimus Prime wander through the room. It's not like that at all. So this is really good, subtle bringing in. And you should be adding all G.I. Joe and Transformers from Image to your boxes if you hope to have any copies, because every single time they release a new one, they sell out. So.
All right, we made it. Visit your comic shop. Find out where there are comic shops nearby to you at comicshoplocator.com. Go to comicshoplocator.com to find out where there are comic shops nearby to you. Jay, play the ad. We'll see you guys next time.
Ooh, hold on. Find the ad first. Which one am I playing?
Play Symphonic.
Yeah.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Symphonic verses. Nocturne's romance. A song of romanticized darkness, dreaming dead by sleep.